My name is Ben Ray Bost. Never knew anybody by that name when I was young. I came up during the Depression, first Depression. My dad had just bought Grandpa's farm, and he was happy. Rich man rode out on a horse. We owed $2,000 on it, and next week he owned the farm. We had to move away. Yeah, and we lived in whatever old house we could rent, and I tell people the best thing ever happened to me, our house burned down. And we left the old sawmill and moved to town right across from a church. And of course, I was at the age I was looking for pretty girls. And I went to church and found Jesus and a wife. And she said I winked at her. But that was a change when, coming through Depression. Nobody had jobs and people were going hungry. But we managed when we moved to town. I got a good job and my dad got a good job, and we come out of it. That was all just right before World War II. Yeah, and I had I had a car, but you couldn't buy gas, and my wife was a piano player for a minister in Old Fort, and I had to ride the train to date her, and I had for about a year or so, and then we got married, and here comes the draft. They took me in service. I had met Peggy. She was an Earnhardt. I met her when she was about 12 years old, and we was playing somewhere, and I just remember seeing her. And then we rode on the back of a lumber truck one time, and then I met her there at church, and we dated a while, and we decided to get married. And her mother had abandoned her, and she was raised by grandmothers, and she is sort of hurt. She went through a hurt, and but we had a good time together, and of course we had a test when I went in the Navy. We had been married 3 months, and I was gone 18 months, and so I sent her all my money, and she bought a house, 5-room house and bath, and when I come back, I didn't know where it was at. She didn't have a telephone. Me and the taxi driver found the house, and she was on the porch sweeping. And when I got home from the military, and there was no communication. Very few people. Nobody had power. The community had no electricity, and I was in the Statesville area, and no power. Nobody had. People couldn't afford telephones, and it didn't cost that much. But only the wealthy people had things like that, and of course the wealthy people bought up everything, and we just managed the best way we could. But we got married, and me and one of my classmates went down to join the Air Force, and they took him, and they said I didn't weigh enough, and they turned me down. And I told them I wanted the Navy, and I went in the Navy. And me and him was in the same invasion. He was in a B-24, and I was on a ship in the Philippines, and I worked with MacArthur. We did several invasions and went through some real unusual things. And it's hard. I still ponder over it, how we was in the enemy territory, and our captain had volunteered for us to rescue a ship that had hit the beach too hard, and we was on landing crafts, and while we was rescuing that ship, all the big ships went back to port. We had no protection, and on the way there, the destroyer Reed was right beside of us, and it sank in 4 minutes, and all the boys went down with it, but just a few. I saw a few of them jump off the bow. Once we got the ship off, we was out in the enemy territory, no protection. 3 planes came in on us, and I had something so unusual. It's some guy. Now we was out at sea, and I knew everybody on the ship because I cut everybody's hair, and I knew them. And this guy didn't belong on the ship. I'd never seen him before in my life. He come into my gun turret, and I asked him, I said, are them American planes or them Japanese planes? He said, you better train on them. I trained on them, this I did. He started firing at me, and I fired my 40 millimeter at him. And this guy leaves the gun turret, and I never saw him again. And the bullets that come from that airplane did not hit us, didn't hit anybody. Nobody was wounded. And so that was so unusual. I think about it. Of course, I had a prayer room on the ship. Tell people. In my gun turret, there's about 6 of us. 2 of them carried ammunition to us, and 2 of us fired it, and 1 was a radio man. The radio man was cussing the sun for rising, and he had made me mad. And he quit cussing and wanted to pray. And I thought that was unusual. Of course, I was busy shooting that gun. And so that was an unusual thing. It sticks with me. I know the Lord was in some of that. And he protected us. And we got back home, and I was tickled to see Peggy. She had bought a piano. There's a piano that she had. But she was good to manage the money, and we had a good life together. If you look at them books over there, about all of them are about seminars we went to about marriage, how to have a good marriage. He asked us a question, how you get along, and something. And I thought I'd answer him a crazy question. I told him, I said, I spend a lot of time outdoors. And and he didn't know what to do with that. But he gave us a book, and I haven't read it yet. But everybody laughed. We had a big crowd in the auditorium. One thing I did might have worked. When we got Social Security, I let her have all of her money in her account, and of course I had mine, and I paid all the bills, and she bought clothes, hung them on the wall and everything. When she passed away, we took the clothes and gave them to the Spanish in South America, but I just let her buy what she wanted to with all her money, and of course I tried to please her, and she was good. We raised her children, and she taught them about Jesus, and we took them to church. We took them to the river fishing a lot, but on Sunday we went to church. And yeah, it was hard me working. It was time we hardly had enough to eat. But I worked two jobs different times. I went to school, studied electronics, and come to Western Electric to build missiles. I'll tell you something comical about, we was working on missiles, but that Christmas there was a lot of toys made with missiles, and I bought one for my boys, and we shot the Christmas things off the Christmas tree. Helped them stay out of trouble on that. My wife didn't like that. We had a glass something right in the top. We shot it out. But those little old missiles were accurate. These little toy things that I guess fired with a spring. But the kids had a good time with that. But we didn't have much, but we enjoyed what we had. Didn't see any way that anybody could go to college because we didn't have the money. Well, she went to college, and of course, here come John. Time for him to go, and he went to college and didn't have to go to the war. And then Toby come along. He wanted to study flowers. I told him, you can't make a living growing flowers. And he didn't pay me any attention. and he made more money than the rest of them did teaching. But Toby liked the flowers. I'd got a job at Cape Canaveral, and I didn't like living that. We had a better house than what them people's living in down there. And so I come to Winston and got on Western Electric. And of course, it didn't pay much. And we did better once I went in business for myself. Worked in church all the time, and helped start some churches. Did some mission work. I built some churches on the mission field. One time I had to sell a car to get enough money to go. I had to pay my own way. I found a sailor that had just come from Germany, and he had bought a organ. I traded him a shotgun for it, and and she'd been playing it. She played it at prayer meetings and at church. And of course, you know who carried the accordion. I had to carry it to the prayer meetings and the different times. She played it at First Assembly some, but it didn't seem to me like didn't too many people have them. They cost a lot of money back then, some of them $2,400. She caught a big shark one time. He tried to bite us once we got him in the boat. What's the Sin City? There where the gamble. And the man that was in charge of the trip sat at our table. Peggy didn't like it because she didn't feel comfortable there with all that gambling and everything. She enjoyed was First Assembly. She liked to meet new people, and she would tell me somebody she met. I accused her of being the bathroom evangelist, and yeah. One time she was in the choir, and I was in the lobby. Some lady fixed my necktie, and she let me know about it. She was jealous of me, and I didn't know she could see that far. She let me know it. She didn't want nobody messing with me. She was just a fun person to be around, and we had. I like to do things that I knew she liked to do. I really miss her so much since she's gone. She was a great person to be around, and 74 years. That was something, and we were close and shared things together and went to church together. And she just loved people. She loved to minister to people. We had a life group. She met with widows. That was interesting when one of them would start dating. One of them dated an oil man. He died. Later she dated a sailor and he died. But that's all I kept up with her. But I remember people used to come through the country looking for work, and from other states, and one person wanted to sleep in our barn, and somebody come up with a song, wrote a song, "May I sleep in your barn tonight, mister, for it's cold laying out on the ground." And I thought of that. But you're scared of somebody, your animals are down there, and people used to smoke, but we let this fella sleep in the barn. And there's a lot of jokes told about lawyers and different ones sleeping in the barn. Couldn't get along with pigs. But it seemed like back then, when anybody was murdered or anything happened, just like Tom Dooley, they wrote a song about him. My mama used to sing it. I'd listen to her sing while I was in the wood box. She was cooking dinner. And different songs, some of them I can't remember, but usually when there wasn't many murder cases, just seldom ever was anybody killed. And but they, played up pretty big. And the country singers would write a song about stuff like that. Always went to the barn, worked with the animals. I talked to the horses and all. Horses are real understanding. And that's essentially what I did. Of course, I went to school when I was 5 years old, and the teacher pulled my hair and slapped my jaws. But I liked her. And it's the only teacher I remember her name, Miss Lackey. and she moved my desk up close to her desk. And I thought, well, she must like me. She did that. And of course, when I went home, I had my brother cut all my hair off, and I kept it real short. Because she grabbed my hair and pulled it like that and slapped my jaw. I don't know what I did. Never did know. But, Miss Lackey, and then I thought, well, when I go to the second grade, well, I'll get rid of her. Well, she became a second grade teacher. Trapman School, North Carolina. You know where Trapman is. One reason I went to school to keep from going to Sawmill later on, when I went on up the grade. So I was the first person in our whole generation that graduated from high school. Everybody quit to work on the farm. And even our school used to stop for a month in the fall for people to pick cotton. Yeah, that don't happen no more. On the farm, later on when I was high school age, I work on a farm for 10 cents an hour. And one day, I was plowing a man's horses, and I wanted $1. I really wanted $1, so I worked 10 horses 10 hours, and one of them died. Yeah, I killed that horse, and when I took him to the watering trough, he laid down and died. But I wanted to give the man a good 10 hours, and I think of that so many times, but it was something how people, you worked anywhere anybody could pay you. A lot of people didn't have the money to pay you when you got through. One time I lived with my brother in town. He lived in town, and I brought a horse up there and a plow, and I plowed gardens for $1.50, and kept the horse in somebody's chicken house, and one day my brother had a cow, and it was election time, and people was buying people's votes. You could have a jar of liquor or a bag of flour. This man threatened to kill me, and I outrun him. He's gonna kill me with a cow chain, because I'd hitched my brother's cow where he wanted to put his cow. And there was a church there, and then there's hog pens and vacant land. And a month later, he killed the man next door to where he threatened to kill me, my brother's house, and the police wouldn't go get him. He was sort of a town drunk, and he come to his house and committed suicide. Of course, I started driving at 12 years old in a lumber truck. And my brother said, get under there and drive, and I did. Our school hired the seniors did the school bus driving. Well, they'd cut up a lot. I'd threaten to stop a school bus, threaten to put them off. I remember my buddies that some of my classmates, we later, after driving school buses, we joined the military. Some went in the Air Force and some wherever. And I think I'm the only one alive in that. And I'm the only one alive on my ship. When we got down to where there wasn't nobody but me and him, I drove a little faster. But speed was one thing we was looking for. And then I bought a 34 Ford. That's what I had when we got married. the doors open this way. Wealthy people had the buses. Now, when the war was ended and we come home, there was no cars for sale. You couldn't find a car. And I finally found one 32B model coupe that I bought. Me and Peggy rode in it to the mountains and different places. Well, I've got a psalm that I sort of live by. Psalm 91. You know what the last verse says? You have a long life. Yeah, I had people die alongside of me. That hurts. I'll never forget that. All the boys that died in service. And we saw a lot of action. We tried to protect each other. I had another occasion that I took malaria fever. They took me up in the mountains to a tent where they was shooting the Japanese were fighting. They was firing guns over it. When I got to feeling better, well, they turned me loose. But I was in Japanese territory. I didn't have a gun. And they just let me go down the road. I went down the road walking, and I stopped a Jeep, and he took me to the waterfront where my ship was. But that was a scary time. I didn't like it up there. They didn't give me much treatment. There was one lady, nurse, that cared whether we lived or died. And that's she got me through it. Grandchildren and everything. They need to serve the Lord. And they need to read the Bible a lot. They love me. It's a lot of fun to be around them. The grandchildren, you tell them they can go home. I love them and I want the best for them. Yeah, I want them. And I want the grandchildren to do good. I think the best decision was coming to Winston. Bring my family down here. That's a pretty hard decision to make when you take your family with you. My name is Ben Ray Bost. This is my legacy.